You've seen Picasso's paintings, fractured faces, distorted bodies, and thought, what am I even looking at? You're not alone. Most people don't get it. But that's because they're asking the wrong question. You see, Picasso wasn't just trying to confuse you. His paintings aren't puzzles to solve. What if I told you Picasso's art is actually a reflection of the chaotic, broken world we live in? What if I told you that understanding Picasso isn't about getting art? It's about seeing life itself in a completely new way. This isn't just a video about Picasso's life or his paintings. It's about why you don't understand him yet, and how, by the end of this video, you will. This isn't about liking Picasso's art. This is about understanding it, and more importantly, understanding what it says about us. For centuries, art was stable, fixed. From the Renaissance onward, paintings were windows into reality, capturing the world as it appeared. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo were praised for their ability to create beauty, harmony, and precision. Their goal? To make you see the world as it is. Logical, clear, understandable. And for centuries, we believed that art was supposed to be just that. But then, the world changed. The early 20th century was a time of unprecedented upheaval. Technology advanced, empires crumbled, and horrific war, swept across Europe. The devastation of World War I ripped apart not just landscapes, but also the human spirit. Soldiers returned from the trenches, disillusioned, broken. The serene and perfect world of Renaissance art felt false, disconnected from the pain and suffering people were experiencing. And Picasso? He was watching, absorbing. He knew the old ways of seeing the world no longer made sense. How could you paint a beautiful landscape when the world around you was disfigured? How could you paint a perfect human form when millions were maimed or dead? Picasso's answer? You couldn't. Instead, he embraced the chaos. He wanted to capture not the surface of things, but the deeper, fractured truth underneath. In 1907, Picasso shattered the art world with Les Demoiselles d'Avignon. It was a painting like nothing the world had ever seen. Instead of soft lines and perfect forms, we see jagged shapes, distorted bodies, and faces that resemble African masks. The critics were horrified. How could Picasso destroy the human form like this? The answer lies in how he saw the world, not as a single unified picture, but as a series of fragmented perspectives. This was the birth of Cubism. Picasso and his collaborator Georges Braque rejected the idea of capturing just one view. Instead, they broke objects and people into fragments, showing them from multiple angles all at once. It was confusing, disorienting, because that's exactly how life felt in the modern world. War had fractured society. Picasso was simply painting what he saw, a world in pieces. Here's where most people go wrong. They think Picasso was just playing with shapes. But his work is more than just geometry. It's about context. As the philosopher Arthur C. Danto said, there has to be something in the historical moment that explains why an object is accepted as art. Picasso's art wasn't just a stylistic choice. It was a response to a world on fire, a world where reality itself was falling apart. To understand Picasso, you can't just look at the painting. You need to understand the moment, the turmoil, the pain, the confusion. His art reflects the chaos of his time, the way war tore apart bodies, minds, and even how we view reality itself. Cubism didn't just break objects apart, it broke apart our understanding of the world. It made us rethink how we see everything. But Picasso wasn't just an artist of abstraction. Before Cubism, he went through what we call his blue period, a time of deep sorrow and reflection. Here, we see a different side of Picasso, one that shows profound empathy for the poor, the lonely, the suffering. Look at the old guitarist. The figure is gaunt, fragile. His body almost seems to melt into the background. Picasso was feeling the weight of the world, the sadness, the isolation. These weren't just sad paintings. They were reflections of a world where people were losing their sense of humanity, where the marginalized were being forgotten. He was giving a voice to the voiceless. As Picasso grew older, the world around him was erupting into violence, division, and war. His art, once focused on personal suffering and the human condition, evolved into something far more explicitly political. By the 1930s, Europe was on the brink of catastrophe, and Spain was torn apart by civil war, a conflict that would deeply scar Picasso's homeland. And in 1937, one event became the catalyst for one of the most powerful political statements ever made through art. On April 26, 1937, during the Spanish Civil War, the small town of Guernica in northern Spain became the target of an unrelenting bombing raid by Nazi German planes, aiding Francisco Franco's fascist forces. It was a market day, and the town was full of civilians, men, women, children, caught in the crossfire. The bombing lasted for hours, turning the town into rubble. By the end, over 1,600 people were dead, and Guernica became a symbol of senseless violence, a slaughter of innocents. When news of the bombing reached Picasso, he was devastated, outraged. The destruction of Guernica ignited something deep inside him, and he poured his anger and sorrow into a painting that would transcend its time. This was not just a painting, it was a cry of anguish, a desperate scream for justice, and a protest against the brutality of war. Look at these figures. They're not just distorted for artistic effect. They're twisted, broken, and fragmented to capture the violence and chaos of that day. Picasso wasn't trying to show bodies in a conventional way. He wanted you to feel the suffering. The people in Guernica are disfigured, with arms outstretched in pain, their faces contorted in agony. The iconic horse, rearing back in terror, the woman cradling her dead child. All of these figures are crushed beneath the weight of senseless violence. Her mouth is open in a silent scream, her eyes wide with shock, despair, and horror. Picasso's use of fragmentation here wasn't just an artistic choice. It was a deliberate reflection of the real human cost of war. It's disorienting, overwhelming, just like the experience of living through that moment of terror. War isn't clean or noble in Picasso's world. It's chaotic, grotesque, and deeply personal. And that's exactly what Picasso wanted you to feel. The figures in Guernica don't simply tell a story. They evoke an emotional truth, one that goes beyond politics or national boundaries. Picasso wasn't interested in just illustrating the facts of the bombing. He wanted to capture the emotional devastation, the psychic destruction that war inflicts on innocent lives. The painting is fragmented because life in war is fragmented. The agony is not orderly, the destruction is not neat. It tears through bodies, minds, and souls without discrimination. In Guernica, there's no hero, no victor. The suffering is universal, the destruction total. Every figure, man, woman, animal, is broken, reflecting the indiscriminate nature of modern warfare. Picasso's genius was in using these fragmented forms to evoke the visceral, inescapable horror of war, reminding us that behind every conflict, there are countless innocent lives torn apart. When Picasso painted Guernica, he was engaging in a different kind of battle, a battle of art against violence, a battle to preserve humanity against the forces of destruction. The work transcended the specific event it depicted and became a universal symbol of the horrors of war. It wasn't just about Guernica. It was about every innocent life lost, every civilian caught in the crossfire, every scream that went unheard. Guernica is intentionally devoid of color. Picasso's choice of stark black, white, and gray strips away any distractions, forcing you to focus on the raw emotion, the horror that transcends time and place. There is no warmth, no solace in this painting, just the cold, hard truth of war's aftermath. The colorlessness reflects the moral void that war leaves behind. Yet amid the destruction, Picasso left glimmers of light, candles, eyes wide open. Even in the midst of overwhelming darkness, there is the hope of bearing witness, the flicker of resistance, and the faint reminder that despite the pain, the world is still watching. Guernica is more than just a painting. It's a mirror, reflecting the deepest anguish of the human experience, a reminder of the fragility of life, the brutality of war, and the resilience of the human spirit. Picasso created this work not to be understood with the mind, but to be felt in the gut. And in doing so, he made Guernica one of the most powerful anti-war statements in the history of art. Picasso's legacy didn't end with him. Cubism influenced entire generations of artists, from abstract painters to architects. It taught us that there's no single way to see the world. We live in a world of complexity, and Picasso's work reflects that. His art invites us to break things apart, to see reality not as one fixed image, but as a series of possibilities. So why don't you understand Picasso? Because he's not just showing you a picture, he's showing you a new way to see. His art isn't meant to be simple, because life isn't simple. It's fragmented. It's chaotic, and his paintings reflect that. Picasso challenges us to look deeper, to engage with the chaos, to see the beauty in the broken. In the end, Picasso doesn't just ask us to understand his art. He asks us to understand ourselves and the fractured world we live in. So the next time you stand in front of a Picasso, don't ask, what does this mean? Instead, ask yourself, what is it trying to make me feel? Thanks for watching. If you found this breakdown of Picasso's art insightful, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into art, history, and culture. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below and let us know what this painting means to you. Don't forget to share the video if you think someone else would appreciate it. See you in the next one.